wrong? Ah, my eye. Ah, oh, that is itchy. I don't want to scratch because my makeup is so on point right now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to fourth episode, I think it is. And I'm really sorry that I missed another week. My mom was out to help me move and pack and get everything sorted. So, I'm moving and shaking the camera. So, anyways, I am in my new place. And as you can see, there's some stuff sitting around and everything's not exactly put away. Not like anything was overly put away in my old place anyways. If you hear any noises, it's probably because I have my window open right now, and there were some people doing some yard work outside, so I would close it, except it is incredibly hot in here already, and I don't want to have my fan running because that will create even more noise, so hopefully it won't get too loud. And they're done right now. At least I haven't heard anything for a little while, so I thought I would quickly record this and hopefully get it done before anybody decides to do evening yard work. Anyways, last week, if you guys follow and pay attention on my social media, I had talked about how my mom was out, so I was going to see if I could get her to do a recording with me. Unfortunately, it's a combination of she is camera shy. She's still not exactly 100% comfortable, I guess you could say, with me being transgender, so that's still a little bit of a gray area. Although she really does support me and still loves me, it's still very hard for her to talk about, understandably so. That happens with parents. Especially since, for the way I am, I'm I like to blur the lines a lot. So, I dress, sometimes I dress like a guy, sometimes I dress very much like a girl, but I still always prefer male pronouns. So, it's a little confusing to her, because it's not just one way or the other, it's kind of a mixture of them both. So that confuses it even more. So I'm not going to argue right now. I've tried arguing and I've tried pushing them to try and understand things faster than what they're ready to, and it doesn't work. It just leads to arguments and both of us feeling like crap. So I'm just going to leave it as is for right now, and hopefully they'll come around in time. But that being said, my parents are not mean. My parents are not evil or anything like that. They do their best to understand, and they do their best to support me in ways that they can. My mom is she doesn't, when she came out here, I always knew she had a problem with this, but when she came out here, I really realized it. And I'll talk about it more in another video that I'm actually planning on recording right after this. So, anyways, my mom is I wouldn't say she's shy, but she's she doesn't like how she looks. She thinks she's old. She thinks she's ugly. And that is so far from the truth. So, anyways, I'll get into that later in another video, but that's probably the main driving force in her not wanting to appear on YouTube, is just because she doesn't feel pretty, or she doesn't feel like she is camera worthy, and that is so far from the truth. My mom, if you do happen to end up watching this, you're gorgeous. And don't worry, I have a video plan that's going to be, I'm filming after this, and it'll be coming out on Mother's Day. So look forward to that. I'm not at home, so I can't do much for Mother's Day for my mom, but I'm gonna make a video for her, and I'll make sure she sees it. I'll link it to her, and I'll be like, you have to watch this, Mom. It's your Mother's Day gift. It's the best I can do while I'm out here in Vancouver and you're back home in Saskatchewan. So that being said, the video that I had planned last week, scrapped. What do I plan this week? I mean, I was so hectic with moving and working this weekend that I honestly didn't really plan anything to talk about. So all I can say is explain why I missed the vlog last week. Say that my room is an absolute disaster, and I'm still getting settled into a new place. I'm still getting settled into new roommates, which they are awesome, by the way, so far anyways. We spent last night watching some videos and stuff, and it was pretty good, actually. They seem really cool and chill, so I'm happy to be here. My cat is happy to be here, which she's locked out this time. She's not coming and bugging me while I'm recording today. So no cat crawling all over me. Maybe I'll go grab her when I go and say goodbye so you guys can still see her, but no cat today. It's getting insane having this cat crawling all over me, especially when it's hot up here, because like I came from the basement suite, so it was like usually a comfortable temperature, and now I'm on the top floor in this new place, so it gets a little warm, especially since today we got to like plus 28 Celsius. So that being said, there were some questions that people had, because if you pay attention to my social media, I'd asked if there were any questions that people wanted me to ask my mom, and a couple people messaged me, and a couple people replied to the post on the Facebook. I'll single out some of them that I think, there might be a couple that I can answer myself. Let me just see. My friend Jocelyn, love you, sweetie, sent me a whole bunch of questions for me to ask my mom. Like, so many. One thing that she asked is there anything you're confused about? This is, of course, was supposed to be directed to my mom. Is there anything you're confused about that you would like to go, that could be gone into detail or explained further as far as coming out and being transgender? I'm sure there's a lot my parents are confused about. I don't know exactly what it is, because this has always been a very sore subject for us, because sometimes they ask their questions in not the best way. Like, it's not that they're a bad question to ask, because questions are always good. It's just that they're very poor at their wording choice. And so their wording choice can come off as sometimes very, very offensive, which puts me very, very much on the defensive. And that's when it bursts into an argument, and it just becomes a not worthwhile topic to go through at the moment. However, I do want to try and get better on my side of it in trying to explain things to them. They sort of understand the basis of what it's like of being transgender. They do understand the basis of it, but they don't seem to really, I guess you could say they don't really seem to understand the intricate side of things, like how, just because it's the main topic that's in the news, especially in the States, how going to the bathroom in the appropriate gender can help people. They don't understand that. And to an extent, even myself, I don't understand it, because even though I like to be referred to as male, I don't always seem to dress appropriately. When I say I don't really fully identify as male even, it's because what I'm saying is I don't identify with what society wants men to be. I don't think that that's true, so that's why I say I'm somewhere in between. I definitely still really, really like to dress cute. I still like to do my makeup. I still like to go shopping and all this other stuff, but I still very much want to be, like, identified as a male. But I see myself, even after going through a full transition, still not wanting to go into the men's washroom. But at the same time, I don't want to go into the women's washroom either. Both of them are very, very uncomfortable for me. One, because walking into the women's washroom for me is like a huge dysphoria ends up coming over me. Like, I hate being in there for some reason. But going into the men's washroom is just so awkward and uncomfortable, because it's just like, I not like these guys at all. So usually for me, I just end up either going as often as I can at home, or there are certain places that I know that have gender neutral washrooms, and I will go to those whenever I have the chance. So that's just how I handle things. They don't seem to understand that side of stuff, like the little intricate details between things. So right now, I think they're still very much in an area where things are black and white instead of all these variations of gray. There's definitely still some explaining that I can do. but unless they're gonna ask the questions, I don't know what they're confused about. So that's where it is right now with my parents. Sarah, thoughts on the documentary? Now, if you guys missed the last vlog that I did, I talked about how I was helped one of my friends make a documentary. She just finished film school, and the documentary that she was doing on me was her final project. More so, she was doing it on being transgender. So I was the transgender that she interviewed. That's just how it happened to be, because I was very close to her, easy to access, and stuff like that. So, anyways, Sarah had asked thoughts on the documentary that I was in. Well, I did explain to her, and I'll explain to you guys, that I didn't let my mom see that documentary, and I'm probably not going to let her see it, just because I know for a fact that I love my parents love me, but some of the things I said in there are going to hurt their feelings. And it's not because I don't love them. I love them so much. They're amazing parents. They are. But I don't want to hurt their feelings unless it's absolutely necessary. And I just feel like some of the things I said they might end up taking in the wrong way, or they might take too much offense to them. And I don't want to put them through that right now. I mean, if they happen to stumble across the documentary and they want to ask me about it or explain things or like maybe even apologize, who knows, I'm welcome to that. We can talk about it and stuff then. Until then, I don't know if they saw it. They haven't said anything about to me. If they have, they knew that I was doing it. Like, my parents knew that I was doing it, and they were fine with that. They were supportive of that. They just didn't want to be talked to, because again, they're worried on their side of things, where if they talk about it and they say the wrong words, their words are forever up on the internet, and people on the internet are not always as understanding and welcome. People on the internet could attack them, get mad at them, and all these other things, and they don't want to be put through that stress. They don't want me to go through that stress, because they know that I love them. They know that I wouldn't want them to be, I don't want them to be attacked or ridiculed for their point of view. Even if I personally think their point of view is wrong and maybe a little bigoted, I still don't want my parents to be attacked for expressing it. So I don't want to be put under that stress either, of having to sit there and watch my parents, who I love very much, end up getting attacked because they may have just worded something wrong, which is very likely to happen. So, anyways, that was fine. They knew I did the documentary, though. They were okay with me doing the documentary. They just didn't want to appear in it, and I don't know if Mom even watched it, and I have a feeling she didn't. I know my dad didn't. I'm 100% sure my dad didn't. And yeah, I don't know if I'll ever show it to them, but again, if they stumble across it, hopefully they'll come and talk to me about it, and then we can talk about some of the things that I said, because it's a harsh truth, some harsh truths that I did say in there, and although I love my parents, some of it definitely had to come out for both my benefit as well as anybody else that could be struggling with do I come out to my parents or don't I come out to my parents. So it definitely shows you a little bit of a harsher truth to some reactions that you could get, and some things that you have to consider, that you might not get 100% support reaction, and you might not get 100% against reaction. And in some senses, being on the fence between those two reactions is bad. It's worse than if you had gotten that 100% support or that 100% against. Again, if you guys want to go see that documentary, I will link it in the bottom, and you guys can go check it out if you want to. I'll probably put another video link at the end of this as well. Go check it out. It'll explain in there why I think that being on the fence as far as a reaction is worse than getting a 100% for or even 100% against. The last question that I was sure I could answer was from Jocelyn. What advice would you like to give other trans people in regards to how they should go about coming out to their parents? Now, this is one that I can answer definitely. Now, it's not going to be advice from a mom or advice from a dad as far as what you can do for coming out. It's going to be advice from my side, from another transgender. Now, when I came out to my parents, it was very, very, I didn't know how to do it. I just know I had to do it. And I knew that if I tried talking, I was going to break down crying, and I hated crying. I hate crying in front of anybody. So, even my parents, like, I mean, yeah, I've cried in front of my mom and dad all the time, but it still really, really bothers me. I don't like doing it. So, anyways, I decided to take a piece of paper and write a note. And I wrote this long letter to my mom and dad. I did it in rainbow pens because I had to do it in some way that made it look happy, even though it was kind of a very, very sad subject to do. I cried. I was crying both out of relief, but I was crying because I was scared. I was crying because it's just in general something hard to talk about because you don't know what your parents' reaction is going to be. So it can be very, very hard. So I wrote this letter, I handed it to them, they went off, they read it, and they talked about it. They must have sat and talked for a while before coming and actually talking to me. And then we sat and we talked a bit. They cried. Well, my mom cried. My mom cried. I cried. Dad was still very much like, it seemed like he was just like, his brain was like, like it was just like, didn't know what to think, didn't know what to do or anything. All he could think about was that he still wanted to reassure me very, very much that they loved me, that they were going to do what they could to support me, that we were going to get through this still together. So, although when it comes down to it right now, I'd say my dad is my biggest opposer, he was also still the first one to reassure me that things were still going to be okay, that we were still going to get through it. So, yes, me and my dad might butt heads, but it's just because we are both very, very strongly opinionated. And we don't... My mom would rather defuse a situation than even have a debate a lot of the time. But me and my dad are very much like, we'll have a debate, which can turn into an argument, which can turn into a yelling match. So, because we are very, very opinionated on opposite ends of a lot of subjects. So sometimes there has been a few times where we talk back and forth, and then we do end up finding a middle ground, and that's great. But then with having two strongly opinionated people, what ends up happening is they butt heads a lot of the time. So me and my dad just in general try not to talk about it too much because we know we're going to butt heads on it. So he still wants to he's still very much like support me, like love me, he still loves me. It's just, for right now, he needs to work on coming around at his own pace. There's no amount of debate or argument or anything that I can have with him that will help him realize things faster. Because my dad is a book nerd. He loves looking at history, he loves looking at a whole bunch of other stuff. So, knowing my dad, he looked into this and he was researching this before my mom even thought about doing it. So, knowing my dad, he probably knows just as much, he might know just as much as I do. It's just him right now probably trying to find a middle ground in his own head, because my dad very much has a logical side of his brain, but he also has a very religious side of his brain. So a lot of the times I think even within himself, he's fighting, and he hasn't found a middle ground himself. So in which case he can't find a middle ground with me yet. So we just avoid the topic. Until he can find a middle ground within himself, I'm just going to have to accept that he's still sorting through it in his own mind. Don't get upset if your parents don't understand right away. Especially when faced with parents like with my situation, where I didn't get a definite yes and I didn't get a definite no. I just got a whole we're confused, we're scared just as much as you, and we're gonna figure it out, but right now we don't know even what to do ourselves. So don't get upset if that's the answer you get. Just understand that you need to sit down, talk with them as much as you can, but in a calm way. If you feel yourself getting too aggravated, too annoyed, step back. That's the best thing you can do, is you can just tell them, like, it's getting too heated, I can't do this right now, we're just going to end up offending and hurting each other's feelings. And that can be very hard to do. Trust me, I know. It is extremely hard to do. But you can do it. You can do it. Like I've said, I'm very opinionated. If I can figure out that things are getting too bad and that I just need to step back, you can too. And I've done it before where things are arguing and I'll just tell my dad, I'll be like, I'll switch off and I'll just be like, okay, I'm not talking to you right now on this. And there are times where he still continues to try and argue and I just keep repeating, I'm not talking to you on this right now. Like, we're done for today on this subject. And usually it only takes like once or twice for my dad, and he'll be like, okay, fine, and we'll go our own separate ways. He'll go do something on the computer, I'll go do something on my computer, and then by supper time we were okay again. And it's just, you gotta learn to identify when things are getting too intense, and so then a civilized conversation is turning into an argument. And that's never good. You should never have a civilized debate be turning into an argument, because then you've lost control of your own emotions and things are just going to go south. As long as they're sitting there and they're saying that they still love you, that they're still going to support you, that things will still work out, know that things are still going to work out, and their understanding of the subject will come in time. You know what? I have to go get my kitty to say goodbye. Who's this? Oh, it's the precious little sweetheart. Oh, are you purring? She is purring. She's always purring. Okay. Anyways, you guys, as usual, remember to always sparkle like a fairy vomited on a unicorn, and see you next time. Bye! And in case you guys anybody's wondering, I made this mug myself. I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. I need to fix it a bit. It's kinda, paint's starting to wear off. And if you do look at the bottom, if you saw there's writing on the bottom, you can guess what it says. I bet you anything.